The massive alien ship called HFY moved through space like a metal mountain. Its dark hull stretched for miles, covered in strange lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. Inside the ship, Commander Veltar stood on the bridge looking at the small, blue planet ahead. His 6 arms moved across control panels while his large black eyes studied the readings. Another primitive world, Veltar said to his crew. Their technology is weak. This will be easy. The Zephyrian Dominion had conquered hundreds of worlds this way. They would arrive, destroy any resistance, and add another planet to their empire. Veltar had done this many times before. He expected today to be no different. Far below on Earth, Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the human ship Liberty's Edge. The vessel was small compared to the alien monster above, but it was the best humanity had built. Jake watched his screens as the enemy ship appeared like a dark cloud blocking out the stars. "Sir, we're getting readings on that thing," said Lisa Grant from her position at the tactical station. "It's huge, 20 times bigger than our largest ship." Pete Collins looked up from his engineering console. "Captain, their energy output is off the charts. Whatever powers that thing, it's way beyond anything we have." Amy Rodriguez turned from her communications post. "I'm picking up signals from the alien ship. They're trying to contact us," Jake nodded. "Put it through." The main screen flickered and showed Commander Veltar. The alien's voice came through the speakers, translated by their computers. "Primitive humans. Your world now belongs to the Zephyrian Dominion. Surrender immediately or face destruction." Jake stood up. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. We don't surrender to anyone. Leave our system now." Veltar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Foolish creatures. You cannot resist us." The transmission ended. Jake turned to his crew. "All ships, this is Morrison. Prepare for battle." The human fleet consisted of 12 ships. They moved into formation around the Liberty's Edge. Jake knew they were outgunned, but humans had never backed down from a fight. "Fire all weapons," Jake ordered. Beams of energy shot from the human ships toward the HFY. The alien vessel's shields flared bright blue as the weapons hit. When the light faded, the enemy ship was undamaged. "Their shields absorbed everything," Lisa reported. "Our weapons aren't even scratching them." Veltar watched the pathetic human attack with amusement. "Return fire. Destroy 3 of their ships." The HFY's weapons were massive compared to human guns. Red beams lanced out and struck 3 human vessels. The ships exploded in balls of fire and debris. Jake watched good people die and felt anger burn in his chest. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," he commanded. But the aliens were too powerful. 2 more human ships fell to the enemy guns. Jake realized they needed a new plan fast. "Sir, the alien ship is launching smaller craft," Amy reported. "They're heading for the damaged vessel Courage." Jake could see the enemy fighters on his screen. They attached to the hull of the human ship like metal insects. "They're boarding the Courage." On the damaged ship Courage, Lieutenant Danny Brooks grabbed his rifle as alien soldiers cut through the hull. The Zephyrians were tall and thin with gray skin and too many arms. They moved into the ship expecting easy victory. They were wrong. Danny and his crew fought back hard. Sergeant Kate Williams threw grenades that sent aliens flying. The humans used every trick they knew. They fought in the corridors using their knowledge of the ship against the invaders. The Zephyrians had better weapons and armor, but they had never faced anything like human determination. When cornered, humans didn't give up. They fought harder. Back on the HFY, Veltar watched his boarding party struggle. "What is wrong with these creatures? Why don't they surrender?" His second-in-command checked the reports. "Sir, the humans continue fighting even when wounded. They show no fear of death." This puzzled Veltar. Every other species had surrendered when faced with superior force. These humans were different. On the Liberty's Edge, Pete Collins studied the readings from the alien ship. Something caught his attention. "Captain, I'm seeing something strange in their power systems." "What kind of strange?" Jake asked. "Their ship runs on some kind of artificial intelligence network. Everything is connected. It's more advanced than our systems, but..." Pete paused. "I think it might be vulnerable to the right kind of interference." Lisa looked over. What do you mean? Their AI thinks in patterns. It predicts what enemies will do based on logic. But humans don't always act logically. We improvise. We do unexpected things. Jake began to understand. You think we can confuse their systems? Maybe. If we can get close enough to plant a device, I might be able to create some chaos in their network. On the Courage, the fighting continued. The aliens had taken most of the ship, but Danny and his remaining crew held the engine room. They had welded the doors shut and set up defensive positions. They'll break through soon, Kate said, reloading her weapon. Danny nodded. Then we make them pay for every inch. The Zephyrians finally cut through the last door. They expected to find defeated humans ready to surrender. Instead, they faced a wall of gunfire. The humans fought like cornered animals, using parts of their own ship as weapons. Veltar received more reports of human resistance. This was taking too long. Other species would have given up by now. These humans were proving to be a problem. Prepare for a second attack wave, he ordered. We will crush their spirit completely. But on the Liberty's edge, Pete Collins was working on his plan. He had an idea that was crazy enough to work. All he needed was a chance to get close to the alien ship. Jake looked at his remaining vessels. Half his fleet was gone, but the crews that survived were angry and ready to fight. He thought about Pete's idea. It was dangerous, maybe impossible. All ships, this is Morrison, he said into his communicator. We're going to try something these aliens won't expect. Follow my lead. The human ships began to move in a new pattern. Instead of fighting like a traditional fleet, they spread out and moved randomly. Jake was betting everything on human unpredictability. The battle for Earth was just beginning, and humanity was about to show the galaxy what they were made of. Pete Collins worked fast at his engineering station while explosions rocked the Liberty's edge around him. The alien ship KK hung in space like a giant predator, its weapons charging for another attack. Pete had found something in the enemy's energy patterns that gave him hope. Captain, I've got it figured out, Pete said, turning to Jake Morrison. Their whole ship runs on connected computer systems. Every weapon, every shield, everything talks to everything else through their main network. Jake dodged as sparks flew from a damaged console nearby. What does that mean for us? It means if we can get inside their network and mess with it, we might be able to confuse their systems. Make them think in ways they're not designed for. Lisa Grant fired the ship's weapons at an incoming alien fighter. How do we get close? Enough to do that? Their shields are too strong. Pete pulled up a diagram on his screen. We don't go through their shields, we go around them. Their docking bays have to open to let their fighters in and out. If we time it right, we can slip inside. That's suicide, Amy Rodriguez said from her communication station. We'd be flying right into their ship. Jake studied the plan. It was crazy, but crazy might be the only thing that would work. Pete, how long would you need once we're inside? Give me 10 minutes with their computer systems, and I can plant a virus that will drive their AI crazy. Jake made his decision. Amy, get me Lieutenant Commander Rick Barnes. Rick Barnes commanded the assault ship Ranger. He was a tough soldier who had led boarding actions before, but never anything like this. When Jake explained the plan, Rick was quiet for a long moment. So let me get this straight, Rick finally said. You want me to fly into the alien ship, fight my way to their computer room and plant Pete's device while you distract them from outside? That's about it, Jake replied. Rick laughed. Sounds like fun. My team is ready. Rick gathered his best people. Tony Martinez knew explosives better than anyone in the fleet. Chloe Turner could break into any computer system ever built. Together with a dozen Marines, they loaded into modified escape pods designed to look like debris. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Paul Henderson watched the battle from the command center deep underground. The alien attack was bigger than anything humanity had ever faced. Reports came in from around the world as people prepared for the worst. Sir, we're getting data from the battle, reported Dr. Helen Parker, one of Earth's top scientists. The wreckage from our destroyed ships contains pieces of alien technology. Dr. Carl Lewis, working at another station, looked up from his analysis. General, this alien technology is incredible, but it has a weakness. Everything is automated. Their ships think for themselves, but they think in predictable ways. What do you mean? Henderson asked. Human minds work differently than artificial intelligence, Carl explained. We make intuitive leaps, we guess. We use our emotions to make decisions. Computers can't do that. Helen nodded. If Captain Morrison's team can disrupt their computer network, it might give us an advantage. Back in space, Jake prepared for the most dangerous plan of his career. The Liberty's Edge and the remaining human ships formed up for an attack on the KK. They needed to keep the aliens busy while Rick's team snuck inside. All ships, this is Morrison, Jake broadcast. We're going to hit them with everything we have. Make it look like a desperate final attack. The human ships charged toward the massive alien vessel. Their weapons blazed as they fired continuously. The KK's shields flared under the assault but held strong. To Commander Veltar, it looked like the humans were making a final desperate charge. Foolish creatures, Veltar said. They sacrifice themselves for nothing. All weapons. Destroy them. The alien ship's guns opened fire. Red beams cut through space, destroying 2 more human vessels. But while the aliens focused on the attack, they didn't notice the small pods drifting toward their docking bay. Rick Barnes held his breath as his pod flew into the alien ship's hangar. The artificial gravity caught the pod and pulled it down, to the deck. Around him, his team's pods landed with soft thuds. Move fast and quiet, Rick whispered into his radio. Tony, get those charges ready. Chloe, find us a computer terminal. The team slipped out of their pods and into the alien ship. The corridors were tall and dark, designed for beings larger than humans. Strange symbols glowed on the walls, and the air smelled like metal and ozone. They moved carefully through the ship, avoiding alien crew members. The Zephyrians were focused on the battle outside and didn't expect enemies inside their own vessel. Chloe found what they needed in a room, full of glowing screens and strange controls. This looks like a computer center, she said. Give me 5 minutes to figure out how it works. Tony placed explosive charges at key points around the room. If this goes bad, we can at least blow up something important. Outside, Jake's ships continued their fake attack. The aliens were winning easily, destroying human vessels one by one. Jake watched good people die and hoped Rick's mission would make their sacrifice worthwhile. Captain, we've lost contact with the Defiance, Lisa reported. The Resolute is badly damaged. Jake gritted his teeth. Hold position. Give Rick more time. Inside the KK, Chloe worked frantically to understand the alien computer system. It was more advanced than anything humans had built, but it followed logical patterns. That was going to be its downfall. Got it, she whispered. Rick, I can access their network from here. Rick activated Pete's device. It was a simple piece of human technology, but it contained something the aliens had never encountered. Random human thought patterns recorded from volunteer test subjects. The device uploaded into the alien network, like a virus. Suddenly, the KK's artificial intelligence was trying to process human emotions, intuition, and chaotic thinking. The logical alien mind couldn't handle it. On the bridge, Veltar watched his control screens flicker and change. Warning lights began flashing all over the ship. What is happening? He demanded. His second-in-command checked the readings. Sir, our computer systems are malfunctioning. All networks are showing errors. The KK's weapons stopped firing. Its shields flickered on and off. The ship's engines began operating at random power levels. For the first time in the battle, the massive alien vessel looked vulnerable. Jake saw the opportunity immediately. All ships, target their weapon systems. They're having some kind of technical problem. The remaining human ships concentrated their fire on the KK's gun ports. Without proper shields, the alien weapons began taking damage. Explosions rippled along the enemy ship's hull. Rick's team fought their way back to the hangar as alien soldiers finally realized they had intruders aboard. Tony's explosives cleared their path while Chloe covered their retreat with steady shooting. Pods ready for launch, Rick reported. Package delivered. The escape pods shot out of the alien hangar just as the KK's systems began failing completely. The ship's artificial intelligence was trapped in loops of human irrationality, unable to make logical decisions. Commander Veltar realized his perfect ship was being defeated by something he didn't understand. The humans had found a way to use their greatest weakness, their unpredictable nature, as a weapon. But this battle was just the beginning. Word of the fight was already spreading across the galaxy, carried by both human and alien communication systems. Other species under Zephyrian rule were watching and wondering, if humans could hurt the Dominion's finest ship, maybe freedom was possible after all. The virus Pete Collins had created spread through the Kika like wildfire. Every computer system on the massive alien ship began acting strangely. Weapons fired at empty space. Shield generators turned on and off randomly. Navigation systems showed impossible readings. Commander Veltar watched his perfect warship fall apart around him. Red warning lights flashed across every control panel. His crew ran from station to station, trying to fix problems that made no sense. "Sir, the main computer is giving contradictory orders," reported his second-in-command. "It's telling us to attack and retreat at the same time." Veltar had never seen anything like this. The Zephyrian artificial intelligence was the most advanced in the galaxy. It could predict enemy movements and calculate battle strategies instantly. But now it was trapped trying to understand human thinking patterns that followed no logical rules. Captain Jake Morrison saw his chance. The alien ship was vulnerable for the first time since the battle began. "All ships, concentrate fire on their main guns," he ordered. The remaining human vessels moved in formation. The Liberty's Edge led the attack, followed by Captain Steve Wright in the Defiance and Captain Maria Santos in the Resolute. Their weapons struck the Keka's weapon ports, causing explosions that lit up space. Without working shields, the alien ship couldn't protect itself. Human missiles penetrated the hull and destroyed key systems. For the first time, the mighty Zephyrian dreadnought was taking real damage, but Veltar was not ready to give up. He activated his emergency communications array and sent a priority message to Zephyrian Command. "The human species poses an unexpected threat. Request immediate reinforcement." The response came quickly from Fleet Admiral Kethmore, Supreme Commander of the Zephyrian Third Fleet. "Your incompetence will not be tolerated, Veltar. The entire Third Fleet is moving to Sol System. We will turn this primitive world to ash." Veltar felt relief. The Third Fleet consisted of 300 warships, including planet-killer vessels capable of destroying entire worlds. The humans had won this battle, but they had also signed their death warrant. The battle footage was already spreading across the galaxy through communication networks. On the planet Kandor, Zara watched the transmission with amazement. She was a leader in the resistance movement against Zephyrian rule. For 20 years, her people had fought a hopeless war against their alien conquerors. "Look at this," Zara said to her followers. "These humans are actually hurting a Dominion ship." Her lieutenant Marcus shook his head. "It's impossible. No one can stand against Zephyrian technology." But the evidence was right there on their screens. The mighty Keka was burning in space, its weapons silent, its shields down. A species the Zephyrians considered primitive had found a way to fight back. "Send word to all resistance cells," Zara ordered. "Show them this footage. Let them see that the Dominion can be beaten." Similar scenes played out on dozens of worlds across the galaxy. The Altarian freedom fighters, the Cordon rebels, the Nexus Underground, all watched the battle at Earth with growing hope. For the first time in centuries, someone had proven the Zephyrian Empire was not invincible. Back at Earth, the victory celebration was brief. Admiral Susan Clark, commanding the combined human defense fleet, received intelligence from the captured alien databases. Ben Taylor, their best cryptographer, had been working day and night to decode the information. "Admiral, I've got bad news," Ben reported. "The aliens are sending their entire Third Fleet, 300 ships including 12 planet destroyers." Susan felt cold dread wash over her. "How long do we have?" "They're already in hyperspace. Maybe 3 days." The room fell silent. Even with their victory over the Keka, humanity only had a few dozen ships left. 300 alien warships would be impossible to stop. But Dr. Carl Lewis had been studying the captured alien technology. "Admiral, I think we might have a chance," he said. "We've learned how their systems work. If we can integrate their technology with ours, we might be able to build ships that can compete. In 3 days? Susan asked. Helen Parker stepped forward. We're already working on it. Every shipyard on Earth is building new vessels using hybrid technology. Human creativity combined with alien power. The work began immediately. In orbital, shipyards above Earth, construction crews worked around the clock. They tore apart damaged alien fighters and rebuilt them with human modifications. The new ships would have alien weapons and shields, but human computer systems that couldn't be confused by their own virus. Jake Morrison visited one of the shipyards to see the progress. The new ship Phoenix Rising was taking shape under the guidance of Captain Alex Chen. It looked like nothing humanity had ever built. Sleek alien curves combined with practical human additions. How does it fly? Jake asked. Alex smiled. Like a dream. The alien engines give us incredible speed, but the human navigation system lets us change course instantly. Their computers can't predict what we'll do because we don't follow their logical patterns. Another new ship, the Iron Will, was being prepared for Captain Nicole Freeman. She had survived the destruction of her previous vessel and was eager to get back into the fight. These hybrid ships are amazing, Nicole said. We can hit harder than before, but we still fight like humans. Fast, unpredictable, willing to take risks they would never consider. The work wasn't just happening at Earth. The battle footage had inspired other species to act. On Kandor, Zara's resistance fighters captured a Zephyrian supply depot and seized advanced weapons. On Altair, rebel ships began attacking isolated Dominion patrols. The alien empire was facing something new, coordinated rebellion across multiple worlds, all inspired by humanity's example. The Zephyrian High Command realized they had a bigger problem than one primitive planet. If word of the human victory continued to spread, their entire empire could collapse. Fleet Admiral Kethmore received new orders: destroy Earth completely and eliminate any trace of human resistance. The Third Fleet would not just conquer the Sol system, they would make an example that would terrify other species into submission. But Kethmore didn't know about the changes happening on Earth. In 3 days, humanity had built 30 new hybrid warships. More importantly, they had sent messages to every resistance group in the galaxy, sharing their virus technology and tactical information. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of his new ship, Terra's Pride. It was larger than the Liberty's Edge, with alien weapons integrated into a human hull design. Around him, his crew prepared for the coming battle. Sir, we're detecting hyperspace signatures, Amy Rodriguez reported. The alien fleet is almost here. Jake looked at his tactical display. 300 enemy ships against 60 human vessels and whatever allies might arrive. The odds were still terrible, but something had changed. The humans weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for the freedom of the entire galaxy. All ships, this is Morrison, he broadcast. Remember what we're fighting for. Today we show the universe that tyranny can be defeated. The greatest battle in galactic history was about to begin, and humanity would not face it alone. Fleet Admiral Kethmore stood on the bridge of his flagship Eternal Dominion as the Third Fleet dropped out of hyperspace. 300 Zephyrian warships appeared in the Sol system, like a dark cloud blocking out the stars. Each vessel was larger and more powerful than the Keka had been. Scan for human resistance, Kethmore ordered. I want every ship in this system destroyed. His tactical officer worked the controls. Sir, I'm reading 60 human vessels. They appear to be using hybrid technology, a combination of our systems and their primitive designs. Kethmore laughed, coldly. Impossible. These creatures cannot understand our technology well enough to use it effectively. But as the scans came in, his confidence began to fade. The human ships looked different from before. They had the sleek curves of Zephyrian design, but with strange additions that made no sense to alien logic. Weapon pods in unexpected places, armor that seemed randomly distributed, engines that fired in patterns no computer would choose. Captain Jake Morrison watched the massive alien fleet on his screens. The Terra's Pride was humanity's new flagship, built from captured alien technology and human innovation. Around him, his crew prepared for what might be their final battle. "Sir, we're outnumbered 5-1, reported Commander Gary Phillips, his new tactical officer. "I've seen worse odds," Jake lied. He hadn't. But his crew needed confidence. Lieutenant Commander Sandra Hayes looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm detecting hyperspace signatures. More ships are arriving." Jake's heart sank. More enemy reinforcements would make the battle impossible. But as the new ships appeared, he realized they weren't Zephyrian. The vessels were smaller, older, bearing the markings of species he'd never seen before. "This is Zara of the Kandorian Liberation Fleet," came a transmission. "We stand with humanity against the Dominion." More ships appeared. The Altarian Resistance, the Cordon Rebels, the Nexus Underground, dozens of species that had been oppressed by the Zephyrian Empire for centuries. Word of humanity's victory over the KK had spread across the galaxy, inspiring resistance movements everywhere. "This is incredible," Amy Rodriguez said. "Ships are arriving from all over the galaxy." The alien alliance wasn't large, maybe 40 ships total, but they brought something more valuable than numbers. They brought hope and knowledge of Zephyrian weaknesses that humanity had never known. Fleet Admiral Kethmore watched the growing rebel fleet with growing concern. "Where did all these ships come from?" "Sir, they appear to be resistance groups from across our territory," his intelligence officer reported. "They must have coordinated this attack." Impossible. These primitive species lack the ability to organize on such a scale. But the evidence was right in front of him. The humans had done something the Zephyrian Empire thought impossible. They had united the galaxy's oppressed peoples into a fighting force. Jake opened a communication channel to all allied ships. "This is Captain Morrison of the Terran Defense Force. Thank you for coming. Today we fight not just for Earth but for the freedom of every world." Zara's voice came back strong and clear. "Humanity showed us that the Dominion could be beaten. Now we fight together." The battle began with the Third Fleet's opening barrage. Massive red beams lanced across space toward the Allied formation. But the human ships didn't fight like the aliens expected. Instead of maintaining formation, they scattered in random patterns, using their hybrid technology to make impossible maneuvers. The Phoenix Rising, commanded by Captain Alex Chen, dove under the enemy line and struck at their rearguard. Its alien weapons punched through Zephyrian shields while its human targeting system hit weak points no computer would think to attack. Captain Nicole Freeman's Iron Will worked with 3 Kandorian vessels to surround an enemy cruiser. The combined attack overwhelmed the alien ship's defenses and sent it spinning into space, its hull torn open by concentrated fire. "Their tactics make no sense," complained Kethmore's tactical officer. "The computer cannot predict their movements." "Then stop using the computer," Kethmore snapped. "Fight them manually." But the Zephyrian crews had relied on artificial intelligence for so long that they had forgotten how to think for themselves. When they tried to fight without computer assistance, their reactions were slow and predictable. The human-led alliance exploited every advantage. They used captured Zephyrian communication codes to jam enemy coordination. They deployed the virus technology that had defeated the KK, causing several alien ships to turn their weapons on each other. Rick Barnes, now commanding the assault ship Liberator, led a boarding action against an enemy destroyer. His team included veterans Tony Martinez and Chloe Turner, who had become experts at fighting in alien environments. "Remember, their computer systems are vulnerable to human thinking," Rick told his Marines as they prepared to board. "Be as unpredictable as possible." The boarding action succeeded brilliantly. The Zephyrian crew couldn't cope with human tactics that made no logical sense. Rick's team captured the ship's bridge and turned its weapons against the alien fleet. But the Third Fleet was still massive. For every alien ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. Jake realized they needed something dramatic to turn the tide. "All ships, this is Morrison," he broadcast. "We're going to try something crazy. Follow the Terra's pride and do exactly what we do, no matter how insane it looks." Jake ordered his ship to charge directly at Fleet Admiral Kethmore's flagship. It looked like a suicide run. And that's exactly what Jake wanted the aliens to think. The Eternal Dominion's weapons focused on the Terra's Pride as it approached. But at the last second, Jake's ship used its hybrid engines to make an impossible turn that no Zephyrian computer could predict. Instead of ramming the flagship, the Terra's Pride passed underneath it and fired all weapons at point-blank range. The flagship's shields couldn't handle the concentrated attack from so close. Explosions rippled across its hull as the Terra's Pride shot past. Other Allied ships followed Jake's example. They made seemingly suicidal runs that turned into devastating surprise attacks. The Zephyrian formation began to break apart as their logical battle plans fell to human unpredictability. On the Eternal Dominion's bridge, Fleet Admiral Kethamore realized he was losing. His superior fleet was being defeated by creatures he had considered primitive. Worse, his own officers were beginning to question their orders. "Sir, perhaps we should withdraw and reassess," suggested his second-in-command. "We do not retreat from primitives," Kethamore snarled. But doubt was spreading through the Zephyrian fleet. Some ships began pulling back from the battle. Others started communicating with the rebel forces, asking about terms for surrender. The battle was turning into something unprecedented in galactic history, a Zephyrian defeat. The empire that had ruled for 1,000 years was cracking under pressure from species they had considered beneath notice. Jake watched the alien formation collapse and felt hope growing in his chest. They were actually winning. But the hardest part was still ahead, convincing the galaxy that freedom was possible and building something better than the empire they were destroying. "All ships, maintain pressure," he ordered. "Don't let them regroup." The final phase of the battle was about to begin, and with it, the birth of a new kind of galactic government based on cooperation instead of conquest. The Third Fleet was falling apart. Fleet Admiral Kethamore watched in horror as his ships either retreated or surrendered to the human-led alliance. 3 centuries of Zephyrian dominance were crumbling in a single battle. "Sir, the destroyer Vengeance is requesting permission to surrender," reported his communications officer. "Denied," Kethamore snapped. "No Zephyrian vessel surrenders to primitives." But his orders no longer carried the weight they once had. More ships were breaking away from his formation. Some retreated into hyperspace while others sent surrender signals to the Allied fleet. Captain Jake Morrison coordinated the Allied response from the Terra's Pride. The mixed fleet of human and alien vessels had proven that cooperation could defeat tyranny. Now came the harder task of building something new. "Captain, the enemy flagship is moving," reported Sandra Hayes. "It looks like they're trying to escape." Jake studied the tactical display. The Eternal Dominion was indeed turning away from the battle, but its course was wrong for a retreat. "Amy, where is that ship heading?" Amy Rodriguez checked her readings. "Sir, they're on a direct course for Earth. Their engines are at maximum power." Jake realized what Kethamore was planning. If the alien admiral couldn't win the battle, he would try to destroy Earth itself. The flagship was big enough to cause massive damage if it crashed into the planet. "All ships intercept the enemy flagship," Jake ordered. "Don't let it reach Earth." The Terra's Pride and 6 other vessels changed course to pursue the Eternal Dominion. But the alien ship had a head start and was moving fast. Rick Barnes led the charge in his captured destroyer Liberator. "Captain Morrison, we can't match their speed. That ship is going to reach Earth," Jake thought quickly. The alien flagship was too strong for their weapons to stop it quickly. They needed another approach. "Rick, can you and your team board that ship?" "It'll be dangerous," Rick replied. "But we've done dangerous before." Rick's boarding team launched in modified escape pods while the Allied fleet provided cover fire. Tony Martinez and Chloe Turner joined him, along with a dozen Marines who had become experts at fighting in alien environments. The pods attached to the Eternal Dominion's hull like metal parasites. Rick's team cut through the armor and entered the ship while it raced toward Earth. Inside the flagship, they found chaos. Half the Zephyrian crew wanted to follow Kethamore's orders while the other half wanted to surrender. The ship's corridors echoed with arguments and fighting between alien factions. "This way to the bridge," Chloe said, consulting the ship's layout. She had learned to read Zephyrian symbols during their previous boarding actions. They fought their way through the ship, but not just against loyal Zephyrians. Some alien crew members actually helped them, tired of serving an empire built on oppression. On the bridge, Fleet Admiral Kethamore stood alone, except for a few loyal officers. He watched Earth growing larger on his screens, determined to destroy the planet that had started the rebellion. "Sir, human boarding parties have reached our deck," an officer reported. "It doesn't matter," Kethamore said. "In 5 minutes we'll impact their planet. The human threat will be eliminated." Rick's team burst onto the bridge. Tony tossed grenades that filled the air with smoke while Chloe went for the navigation controls. Rick confronted Kethamore directly. "It's over," Rick said. "Call off this attack." Kethamore raised his weapon. "I will not be defeated by primitives." The battle on the bridge was brief but fierce. Kethamore fought with the desperation of someone whose entire worldview was collapsing. But Rick and his team had faced impossible odds before and won. Chloe managed to access the ship's navigation system. "I'm changing course," she announced. "This ship is not hitting Earth." The Eternal Dominion turned away from its collision course just minutes before impact. Instead, it entered orbit around Earth as a captured vessel. With their flagship taken and their admiral defeated, the remaining Zephyrian ships surrendered completely. The Third Fleet, the pride of the alien empire, was no more. In the weeks that followed, representatives from dozens of species gathered on Earth. Ambassador Linda Foster led the human delegation in establishing what would become the Terran Commonwealth. It wasn't an empire built on conquest, but an alliance founded on cooperation and mutual respect. "We're not here to replace the Zephyrian Empire with a human one," Linda explained to the assembled delegates. "We're here to build something better, a government where every species has a voice." The former Zephyrian territories began to change rapidly. World after world declared independence or joined the growing Commonwealth. The old empire's rigid hierarchy gave way to a flexible alliance of free peoples. Jake Morrison, promoted to Admiral, led the first Commonwealth fleet to make peaceful contact with neutral systems. His mission was to offer friendship, not conquest. "We've learned that diversity makes us stronger," Jake told the crew of his new flagship New Dawn. "Every species brings something valuable to our alliance." The New Dawn was actually the former, KK, completely rebuilt and renamed. The ship that had once come to conquer Earth now served as a symbol of transformation. Its crew was mixed, humans working alongside reformed Zephyrians and representatives of dozens of other species. Captain Pete Collins commanded the New Dawn with his usual engineering expertise. The ship's systems were a perfect blend of technologies from across the galaxy, proving that cooperation produced better results than domination. "It's amazing what we can accomplish when we work together," Pete said as he watched his diverse crew operate the advanced vessel. The transformation wasn't complete, though. Some Zephyrian holdouts continued to resist in remote sectors. Pirates and warlords tried to fill the power vacuum left by the Empire's collapse. The Commonwealth fleet found itself constantly busy keeping the peace. But something fundamental had changed in the galaxy. The idea that might made right was being replaced by the concept that cooperation made everyone stronger. Species that had been enemies for centuries began working together on common problems. Zara, the former Kandorian rebel, now served as a Commonwealth admiral. Her ships patrolled the frontier regions, helping to establish new settlements and protect trade routes. "The humans taught us that freedom is worth fighting for," she said. "Now we work together to make sure everyone gets that chance." The Zephyrian Empire had ruled through fear and superior technology. The Terran Commonwealth grew through hope and shared knowledge. Research stations were established where scientists from different worlds could work together on projects that benefited everyone. Dr. Carl Lewis and Dr. Helen Parker led one such station, studying ways to improve faster-than-light travel. Their team included former Zephyrian scientists who had once worked only for military purposes. "Science should serve all people," Helen explained. "When we share knowledge instead of hoarding it, everyone benefits." The Commonwealth faced many challenges in its early years. Some species were reluctant to trust after centuries of oppression. Others wanted to use their new freedom to settle old scores. But gradually, the alliance grew stronger. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Dawn as it prepared to explore a new sector of space. The galaxy was vast, and there were surely other civilizations out there, Some friendly, some hostile, some just trying to survive. Set course for the outer rim, Jake ordered. Let's see what's out there. As the ship jumped to hyperspace, Jake reflected on how much had changed. A year ago, humanity had been a single species on one small planet. Now they were part of an alliance that spanned thousands of worlds. The question that had started it all, Keika or is it a human warship, had become prophetic. The lines between conqueror and conquered, between alien and human technology, had blurred beyond recognition. The Commonwealth wasn't perfect. It faced problems and setbacks like any government. But it was built on principles that made it stronger. Over time, freedom, cooperation, and the belief that diversity was a source of strength rather than weakness. The galaxy was changing, one world at a time. And at the center of that change was the simple human idea that everyone deserved a chance to be free. As the New Dawn traveled toward unknown stars, its mixed crew worked together with the efficiency that came from mutual respect. They carried, with them, the hope of a better future and the determination to make it real. The Galactic Empire had indeed sprung forth, but it was not the empire anyone had expected. It was something new, something better, something that proved the power of cooperation over conquest. And in the depths of space, other civilizations were beginning to receive the Commonwealth's first message to the unknown. We come in peace, seeking friends among the stars.